Hello there, I'm Jimmy Vegas, and I got scammed by CEX. Now, for those of you who don't know, CEX is like a second-hand sort of shop here in the UK. I think there are a couple of locations in like Ireland and Spain as well. Basically, you can go in and you can trade in your old games, DVDs, Blu-rays, consoles, electronics, whatever, and you can buy second-hand things as well. So I go into CEX and trade in games, and I can get all the games with vouchers, or I can just go in with cash and I can buy whatever I want in there. So, story starts a couple of months ago. I go into a CEX, or not my local one that I usually go into. I was out and about, and I went up north, and I went into a CEX there. And I go in, and specifically looking for a game, because I know they've got a game that I want on PS3, because obviously I'm collecting for it. It's not a difficult game to come by. I paid £22 for it, I think it was. And the top and bottom of it is, if you go on eBay, it's a little bit more. So I decided to go into CEX and buy this game. There it was, on the shelf. Brilliant. Perfect. So I go into the shop, pick it up, take it to the counter, pay on my card, beep, contactless, awesome. So I'll take it all the way home. You know, it was about an hour's drive away from where I live. Get home, look at the disc, and I think, it's a bit grubby, a little bit, scratches on it. I think, okay. So I clean it up a little bit, and I put it in the PS3. Starts up, brilliant, cool, but then doesn't even get to the main menu. At that point, I'm thinking, I don't think this game works. So what I do, because I've got multiple PS3s in my house, I take the disc out, put it in different PS3, exact same thing happens. Take it out, put it in my third PS3, exact same thing happens again. There is no doubt in my mind that that game will not work because of the scratches. Cleaned all dust off, all the fingerprints, whatever, but scratches obviously still there. So I take it back into my local CEX store, because I'm not driving all the way up north again for an hour, just take it back to the same store. Yeah, fair enough. So I go in, take it in and say, look, I bought this game in that CEX store up there. I'm not going to name them for obvious reasons. But I bought this game and took it home, and it doesn't work. It's scratched. Look at this disc. So I'm going to give you a moment now to put in the comments what you think happens next. Okay? I don't know how many people are going to watch this video at all, but I will give you a couple of seconds. Just type in the comments now what you think is going to happen next in this story. Okay? Give you a moment. Pause the video if you want to. Have you done it? Okay, hopefully one or two of you may have guessed what happens next. They said I did it. They said you scratched that. Not in those words exactly, because they can't outright blame me and say that. And they basically said that we wouldn't have sold you a disc like this. That was what they said. I'm like, you did though. You really did. Take it home, it does not work. Anyway, after a bit of to and froing, heated a little bit, a bit of, argument and saying, look, come on, you sold it like this. I don't care. I could pull out any of your discs there, and I guarantee they're not pristine condition. And to be fair, there's been multiple times when you've got a disc from CEX and they're not in pristine condition. Anyway, they say, okay, look, fine. We'll accept that the disc is not working. We can't replace it because we don't have another copy, and there isn't another copy of this game around here for miles. I'll tell you the game a little later on. They said, though, that we can put it in our disc cleaner. However, we will have to charge you for that. I said, no, I don't want that, because you're not charging me for something you've broken. They said, okay, we can issue a refund. Excellent, via a voucher. Now, this is where things go off, not the rails, but I'm going to use the term go off the rails a little bit. And I start getting a bit annoyed, because the options that they've given me is pay to have the disc sorted, or I can have the money back in a voucher and buy something else. Now, I'm no expert in this, but I will be by the end of this story, I feel like. But I demanded a cash refund. When I say cash refund, I don't mean physical cash. I mean like cash as in, I paid on card, I had the receipt, I wanted it refunded to my card. But they refused to do it. Absolutely flat out refused to do it. I kept going. I could see people in the store looking at me because I was having an argument. And I mean, there was no bad language used. There was no aggressiveness used. It was, just a bit of back and forth, back and forth. Look, you've sold me this. It needs fixing. Okay, well, it's your store. I'm not traveling all the way up there to get this. You are one company. But they even said, even if you go back up there, they'll tell you the same. You can either pay to get it cleaned or they'll issue a voucher. And I said, no, I'm not having it. I'm going to charge it back. I'm going to get in touch with my card holder and get the money back. You know what they said to me? Good luck, because they won't do that. I thought, whatever. So I walked out the store. Keep in mind, I still had the dodgy game that wouldn't work at this point. So I go home and I start doing a bit of investigation. So at this point, I understand why CEX do what they do, but I don't understand why they don't do other things. So let me be clear about where the UK law stipulates what they should have to do at this point. They sold me faulty goods. They are perfectly within their right to offer me a refund as a voucher. In fact, they could offer me a refund in games if they wanted to. They could offer me a refund in anything as an option. That's the key here. Refund via voucher is only an option. Every retailer must issue an option of a refund via original payment method. What that means is that if you pay by cash, you've taken back something that is dodgy, doesn't work, they can offer you a refund in voucher, but they also have to offer you a refund in cash because you paid with cash. In my case, I should have been offered a refund via card because I used my card to pay. They did not offer me that option. So keep in mind, it is an option. Every retailer, if you get a refund, must offer you the option of your original payment as a refund, not just a voucher. CEX have effectively broken the law here, but me trying to prove that is just, it's a waste of time. It's not something I'm determined to try and do. I do not care that much for them to try and do that. Anyway, at this point, let me recap what has happened, okay? Because it's getting a little bit out of hand. I've bought a game that doesn't work. CEX will not accept a refund. They will not accept a return unless I take a voucher or pay to have the disc cleaned, resurfaced, whatever they do. I've walked out the store, okay? I know my rights now. So I contact my card holder, okay? This is probably a couple of days later. I fill out all the details and do everything, that they asked me to. Give me some, send some pictures, give information, a big description, whatever. Brilliant. Okay, send that off. A couple of weeks later, guess what I find? £22 refunded to me. So screw you, CEX. If you're going to play around, if you're going to do stuff like this, you're not going to win the fight, okay? Because at the end of the day, if you pay by card, especially credit card, you are covered, even for £22. Now, where does this leave me? Well, I am not down money, I'm not up money, I'm nothing, but I am up a game. A game that doesn't work, but this is where things get even more interesting, okay? So I have a case, I have a disc that is scratched and does not work, and I have a manual. That's where I'm at. So, what is the best thing to do at that point? Well, here's what I do. I go onto eBay and I list the disc as not working, scratched, probably just needs a bit of a re-clean. A few days later, I sell it for a £5. Now, just to be clear here, I was perfectly within my right to keep this game, keep the case. I specifically asked, after I'd been refunded the £22, what should I do? I still have the merchandise that doesn't work. They told me, you can do what you want with it. You are not obliged to send it back. You can if you want to. You can throw it away if you want to. Do what you want with it. And I said, fine. The transaction is complete now, and if the business, whatever they want to be, business, are they really a business? If that business decides that they want to have beef, they cannot legally have beef with me. They've got to legally have beef with the card provider, in which case, MasterCard, whoever, whatever. But the idea is that I get to do what I want with this game now. So I sold the disc. So now I'm up £5. Awesome. And I haven't heard back from that buyer with the disc, so he must have been able to, or she must have been able to get it working. Not a problem at all. So I'm up a £5. What do I do next? I bide my time. A couple of weeks later, I found a disc-only version of it. The listener said the disc was fine. It cost me £11.90 something. So I'm up a £5. I pay £11.90, and now, guess what? I have the game, the case, instruction manual, everything, disc, Yeah, and it worked, by the way. I've tested it. So for all that palaver, I managed to get a game that should have been £22, and I managed to get it for like £6.90 something in the end. You know, that's, for me, that's a win. But the idea here and this whole video is about CEX scamming people. And I've no doubt in my mind they will repeatedly say to people, no, we can't give you a cash refund. No, we can't refund your original payment. You can, and you legally have to, CEX. That's how it works. If you've sold merchandise which is provably broken, provably not working, in this case it was clearly scratched disc, then you have to offer the option of refunding the original payment. You can offer voucher, and if you're the buyer, you want to take a voucher, fine, whatever. What is the moral of the story here? For me, I usually do check discs, and not every time I go to CEX, but usually what I'll do is if I buy a game or two, I'll go out the store, have a quick look at the disc, yep, fine. And most of the time, it usually is. In-store CEX is far better than if you order online at CEX. Seriously, go in-store if you're going to buy from that shop. But I usually do look at the disc and make sure there's no scratches, make sure it looks okay. This time I didn't, because I was in not a foreign land, but not in my home place. You know what I mean? I had stuff to do up north because I was visiting people. I just didn't have the time. I just went out the store, carried on about my day, and I forgot to look at the disc. And that is the moral of the story. Check your discs after you've been to CEX. As soon as you get out the store, even if you want to check it before you even leave the store, do that. That's probably even better, because then they'll see you on the CCTV that you're not trying to replace the disc, you're not trying to scam them or anything. There's proof there. And if it ever does get to, legal proceedings, then they have to legally provide that CCTV to the police. But obviously mine didn't get that far. I just got a bit miffed at them and said, screw you, I'm going to get my money back. And I did. So that's another moral of this story. If you've been screwed over by CEX, if you've paid on card, credit card specifically, maybe debit as well, you might be able to get it back, but specifically credit card, you're covered. It means that you've got a good chance of getting it back if you can prove that your merchandise was not functioning. In my case, it wasn't. Disc just was not functioning. Another moral of the story is don't shop at CEX, but they're useful. As a collector, they are useful, and I do keep an eye on what's coming in and what's not. But in some ways, some people might say, well, you ended up scamming CEX. And if you want to say that, that's fine. At the end of the day, they sold me merchandise that doesn't work. And as far as I'm concerned, that's not how things should work. I have bought something that should work, and it didn't. They refused to refund, so I forcibly got my refund. Whether I still have the box, the manual, the disc, that's on them, because the law stipulates that I can keep those because they didn't live up to their end of the contract, I guess it is. Can you say it's a contract? I suppose it is. I don't know. CEX as a whole, I don't really have too many problems with. I know that many people do. So I watch a guy called Donald Mackerel, and he's got his own channel, Donald Mackerel Gaming. I'll link it below if you want to have a look at him. And he's a very small creator, but I like him because he's very truthful and honest. And he's had so many issues with CEX, to the point where it's comical. So shout out Donald if you do ever see this for some bizarre reason. But yeah, he tends to buy them a lot online, and I think that's where they end up trying to flog all the garbage stuff. But what really got me as well is the fact that they tried to say, I did that to the disc. Why the hell would I do that to disc? You're telling me that I went all the way up to a shop, an hour's drive away from me, to buy a game, to bring it home, to scratch it, to take it back to a CEX and say I want a different one, even though you don't have a different one. Where the hell is the logic in that? I mean, I know people take discs and swap them and take it back and say, oh, look, you sold me a scratched disc. And I know that does happen, but generally that's not the case with me, because why would I do that? I don't need to do that. I wanted this game because it's hard to get hold of. Like I say, you can tell just by looking at it, it's not like the standard crap you see on a eBay listing of 200 PS3 games. It's all FIFA or Madden and Call of Duty and whatever else. So it's obviously something that I would care about. Anyway, please let me know your experiences with CEX or anything similar that you've got in your own country, because I'm sure there are stories to tell with a lot of those. There'll be some stuff hanging around me now, for videos to watch. and maybe a subscribe thing down below. I don't know, but please like, comment, subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.